I'm willing to give away some of my own Bitcoin to help other people get it so that they can be okay. I live on a Bitcoin standard. I try to keep as little fiat as possible and just get out of that system. I do not want my time or energy intertwined with that system. I want to just focus on Bitcoin, building Bitcoin, and just see the future we want to see. It truly is revolutionary. You can have a bearer asset in control in your own custody in a 10-minute time frame, and then you can take that Bitcoin with you anywhere in the world, storing it in your head. Bitcoin is probably the most undervalued asset in the world, an underpriced asset in the world. Under 100K, it's just such a gift. We know where this is headed. Thinking of Bitcoin as your lifeboat, you need to get on the lifeboat, because as we just saw in Iran, it's a very real, probable, and guaranteed outcome that is going to happen. Once you understand the profoundness of Bitcoin, a lot of the material things, at least for me, have withered away. Say if I wanted to buy a $200 pair of sneakers, do I really want this shoe? Because in a few years, that's going to be a $2,000 shoe when Bitcoin connects it.
Today on The Signal, I'm joined once again by Nolan Martino, a Bitcoin educator who works at Fidelity, and he helps people question the fiat script and discover the deeper signal behind Bitcoin. Nolan, man, it's so awesome to have you back on. I absolutely loved our first conversation.
Likewise, I'm so happy to be back on, and I love seeing the growth that you've been doing with the channel, and so happy to get into today's conversation.
Let's just get right into it. Last time we talked, there was this theme of Bitcoin being an escape hatch, which I really love, and I think that's more relevant now than ever. That was such an incredible theme that we explored. Since that time, what kind of things have been exciting you in the Bitcoin space?
To your point about the escape hatch, I just think we're seeing it in real time, literally with Iran's currency, right? Overnight, over time, Bitcoin went to 103 billion. Price in Iran, I think it's real. And the people who were storing their savings and their life work in Bitcoin came out on top of it. Came out actually wealthier overnight in that situation, rather than probably the majority of people, unfortunately, who got completely wiped out because the currency literally collapsed to zero and lost all their life savings with whatever's going on in Iran. So I can't think of a better advertisement for Bitcoin than that, seeing that you can store as much money, as much as your life savings in Bitcoin, and come out rather unscathed in a situation like that when your currency collapses. Yeah, I think we're seeing in real time Bitcoin playing out and being a very resourceful tool, and I call it the lifeboat in this fiat, as fiat continues to implode on itself.
Yeah, that example with Iran, it's like a perfect advertisement for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And hopefully that wakes people up, but it seems like people are just so asleep that even something like that, that still is just not enough. What is it going to take for people to finally see?
I don't know. You would think that would wake people up, seeing like 103 billion Bitcoin price, but I don't know if people need, unfortunately, to face more pain, or it doesn't like become real until it maybe happens somewhere in the West. And then people are, oh, snap, like I really need a plan for this. I don't know what it's going to take, but that's why we do what we do and try to educate people as much as we can. But man, I don't know what it's going to take.
One of the thoughts that I've been thinking a lot about lately is how, as people who see Bitcoin for what it is, the best strategy is not to keep telling people about it. It really is to just embody the Bitcoin principles, not only for yourself, not only is that going to make your life better, but that's actually the best advertisement for Bitcoin possible. When other people see a Bitcoiner, they don't necessarily look at them and say, that is someone that I trust to steward this future that we're heading into. But I think that is the ultimate thing that we as Bitcoiners need to do, is become someone who, when people look at us and they see us as a Bitcoiner, they start to trust us.
Yep.
And right now they don't trust us. They just see people who are out there, and maybe they're just trying to get money. They confuse us with crypto bros. But we really are going to become stewards of this world that we're entering. And of course, you're going to want to be a person that people trust. And right now, I think that's the biggest thing that Bitcoiners need to work on. The world's not just going to become better just because we know Bitcoin and we see it and other people don't. If anything, we're putting people off by having that attitude. We know more than you. We need to really change our frequency so that we're stewards, and we make it clear that Bitcoin is here to help humanity. It's not just for the people that see it. It's here for all of humanity.
Absolutely. So wonderfully said. And I think, like you said, the results, right? People don't follow what you say, but they follow how you're living and the results of your life, right? So if you're eating healthier, if you're able to have more kids, if you're able to travel more, do the things that you want to do, people are going to naturally be inquisitive and ask, man, what is he doing different that I'm not doing? And it's just, yeah, I'm saving in a better form of money. Everything around me is getting cheaper. I can afford more things. I can do the things I want with my time. And that thing gets people like, okay, let me look into this Bitcoin thing. But yeah, just telling people, yeah, have fun staying poor. You don't know about Bitcoin, and that's not going to rub well with people. So yeah, you have to live out the Bitcoin ethos, and then naturally people will see that, wow, this guy's life is really getting better. Let me see what he's up to, and they'll inevitably find Bitcoin, I think.
Yeah, that's why I love having people like you on, and you in particular, because you really just put out that Bitcoin frequency.
Yeah.
And you are someone that I can tell when other people see you, they're like, I trust him. I trust him to be a steward of the future.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about Bitcoin, you're going to have way more success in orange pilling people. And it sounds like you actually have had more success than I think anybody else that I've ever talked to. And
I try. I think I just try to lead with transparency, right?
Yeah.
When I started on like my Instagram journey, I was like, I'm going to be as transparent as possible, post exactly what I'm doing, where I'm getting this information, my losses prior to Bitcoin with altcoins and other stuff, and just really be a person that people can trust and people that like someone that can just follow my journey. And I do think it's turned out well. A lot of people reached out to me asking for help, where to start, self-custody, all that good stuff. So I think as Bitcoin continues to go higher, I think this year, I think more and more people will start to reach out and hopefully get on board. But yeah, I just really try to lead with transparency and authenticity, and whoever wants to rock with me will rock with me.
Yeah. And what I really appreciate about you also is when I follow you, I can see that you're doing all this other incredible stuff in your life outside of Bitcoin. I see you going to the gym, or I see you reading and playing basketball. And that's a big part of being a Bitcoiner too, is being well-rounded. It's not about just being all into Bitcoin, just only talking about Bitcoin. So can you talk a little bit about how you incorporate Bitcoin into your life and how you just emanate Bitcoin in everything that you do?
Yeah, I think it just goes back to proof of work, right?
Yeah.
Like putting the work in the gym, putting the work in, reading books, becoming smarter. I remember hearing from Chris Johnson from the Wealth Squad talk about like, Bitcoin solves like your financial problems. And once you get Bitcoin, that's you're going to be taken care of on that front. It frees up your time to then dive into everything else wrong with your life or everything else that you just want to get into. So like for him, he was talking about getting into the food thing or like fixing his diet. And that's something I want to get into. He's got into this peptide journey, something I'm also interested in getting into. You can just work on your fitness more, work on your mental health, work on your spiritual connection. It just opens up a whole avenue of things that you can focus on. And that's how I look at it. And then you just tie it in with proof of work, right? You actually do the work. You're going to the gym every day. You're eating right. You're reading, getting smarter, adding new skills to your toolbox. That is Bitcoin's, again, ethos, and you're personifying it. Yeah, that's how I try to live it out. And just, again, like Bitcoin's going to take care of the financial things. Let me figure out other things in my life that I can like rectify and get better at, and just become a better overall human being. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the way you break that down. And I love that Chris Johnson quote. There's something about the way that Chris talks about Bitcoin that it just resonates so deeply with
me. I know. He's the GOAT. No, he's the GOAT for sure.
And to your point that you were talking about, now that I've gotten to Bitcoin, I've got the financial part handled. Whereas before, my entire life was spent towards getting that financial part handled, and there was never enough. I could always be doing more. I could always be picking up that extra shift.
Yep.
And so everything was going towards handling that financial part. But now that I've moved everything into Bitcoin, I feel like that's handled exactly the way you put it. And so now I'm free to explore like inner work and emotional issues that I probably never would have addressed if I hadn't got this financial part handled. So yeah, I can tell that I'm becoming a better person, and it's an incredible thing to be able to know that the finance is handled, and now there's this whole other world that we can finally explore. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It's a beautiful journey. You can just look at and lower your time preference and just figure out who you are, right? You're not so caught up in the rat race, like you said, trying to get the extra shift, trying to find or do 5 different side hustles. Like you can just reflect back inward to yourself and just figure out, who am I? What do I want to do here? What do I think my purpose is? And then Bitcoin allows you to go fulfill that because you're not being stolen from every day. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful life.
So last time you were on, you talked about this idea of you having like a treasury for your family. And then I know your goal this year is to go to colleges and start orange pilling college students and giving them Bitcoin. Can you talk about a little bit about those things and how those are going?
Yeah, Treasury Family Fund is going very well. It's been now a year, just this month in January 2026. and we've made really good progress. And I think I talked about like the mechanics of it in the first podcast, but I think it's about 16 or 17 of us in our family. Everyone sends $20 a month. I'm the treasurer, so I buy the Bitcoin, send it to self-custody. And then at the beginning of this, we all plan that we're going to do this for 10 years. So we'll reassess in 2035 where we stand, if we want to continue for another 10 years, which ideally I want to, or if we want to cash out and give everybody their funds or whatever. But yeah, no, we've made tremendous progress. Thankfully, Bitcoin was flat last year, so we had a really good time just to stack every month. And yeah, we just continue doing that again until 2035. So I'm really excited about that, and that it's a family effort, and it's something that I created, and it's brought all of our family together. I put resources in our chat every day, books to read, podcasts to watch. So I'm hoping they watch it and do the knowledge themselves, and then they start allocating personally. And then for my goal this year, I want to go to, so I live in North Carolina, and there's a bunch of colleges in North Carolina. Like went to school here in North Carolina as well. So I want to go back to just different colleges around the state and just get feet on the ground and boots on the ground and help Orangeville people, right? So just go around, talk to people. And this goes back to Gen Z, which I'm a Gen Zer, is really being affected by the fiat monetary system, right? They just saddle with that coming out of college, can't find a job. AI now is on the rise. They don't have any assets. They're getting just crushed by inflation. So I want to go back and really help these people and really break down to them the problem and then give them the solution, right? So my idea is to go back to colleges, go around educating people on the grounds, giving them, say, $20 in Bitcoin, and then giving them my card, my number, and just being a resource for them. And hopefully doing that, now that they'll have their feet in the game with some Bitcoin, they'll ideally do some research, read a couple books, watch a couple podcasts, and then take their own journey and start buying more as they see Bitcoin's prices going up and asking themselves, what is this? What am I missing? So I'm really excited about that, and just really trying to like be intentional and be on the ground to help people. So yeah, that's what I'm really excited about this year.
Yeah, I love that. That's what we Bitcoiners need to do more of, is being on the ground. And it's a crazy concept because we grow up in this fiat world where we don't have to take initiative, and it's not our responsibility to do this stuff. But as stewards of the new future and as early adopters of Bitcoin, that is our role to do what you're doing. And locally here in my meetups, people are going to different merchants and trying to educate them about Square, about how it's so easy to accept Bitcoin now. All it takes now is just people like you or me and other Bitcoiners just go to businesses and just show them how easy it is.
Yeah. And I think it's so easy to do, talking about Bitcoin or whatever, posting it online and social media. But to your point, like being in person and like having that actual human interaction with people, it hits different. And that's what I'm most excited, connecting back with people in my generation, my age range, and really just trying to drive and make that difference with people. And I'm doing this out of my own Bitcoin stack. Like I'm not being sponsored by anybody. I'm willing to give away some of my own Bitcoin to help other people get it, and so that they can be okay, ideally. Yeah, man, like I really believe we can change the world through Bitcoin. And I want to do as much as I can to try to drive that effort and get as many people on board. So yeah, it's the mission.
Yeah, you're really being the change.
Yeah.
The BTC, I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Robert Belo's tweet. I love that. Yeah, be the change.
And so I'm curious how you were before you found Bitcoin. Were you pretty similar to how you are now, in terms of like your work ethic and your personality, or has it changed you in ways that you've been able to notice?
I would say I was pretty much the same prior to Bitcoin, just because like work ethic wise, I played tennis growing up, football and basketball growing up. So I was like an athlete. So I was used to training every day, practicing every day, really honing in on your craft and your skill. So that never really changed. I was always a giver as well. When I was young, I would always just like want to give and help people. But Bitcoin has just been able to exacerbate it and emphasize it, right? I can now help people on a larger scale. I can, again, still work out, still do my proof of work kind of things. But I would just say, it's been able to scale what I used to do in the past, and make me a better person overall outside of kind of like the fiat system. So yeah, I would say it's definitely changed my life for the better. But I think since I had a good framework and foundation before I found Bitcoin, Bitcoin just made it much better. That kind of answered it.
And in terms of the people that you've orange pilled, have you seen any profound changes in anybody? Have you gotten anyone to understand it on the level that you do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
a few of them. One of
Oh,
my
wow.
close friends back home, he gets it. Like he really gets
Yeah.
it. He actually texted me today. Was like, I think he said Venezuela or who was the other country? I think Iran. They don't have a central bank. I'm like, oh, okay. So you've been doing your research. Like you understand what's going on, like the central banks and stuff. And he was like, yeah. So he understands it. He's been allocating the Bitcoin heavy. Got him in self custody. And yeah, no, he's fully went down the rabbit hole with me. So being able to take your friends and family down the rabbit hole and then get them to see the light and then get them to take action is just such a beautiful feeling. And I have a few of those testimonials that I've had. I have another one with I'm in a group chat with some of my friends I went to college with. And at first I told them like, yeah, I'm into investing and they're into investing as well, like the stock market and things like that, trading. But I'm like, yeah, no, I'm Bitcoin only. I don't trade or really do any of that. I just provide value in the world and save in Bitcoin. And then at first they were like, oh, okay, yeah, like you're tripping. Like we're gonna trade and still buy some stocks, whatever. But I've got just about everybody in that group chat to see the light. And now they still trade and stuff, but like they take all their profits and sweep them into Bitcoin. And they get it. Now they're like self-custodying, asking me which wallets are the best ones to go with. And now they're just like on their hunt and on the rush to try to get to one Bitcoin as well, because they understand it. So it's cool seeing again just your friends and family come along the journey and see it for what it is and just get on board.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I love hearing stories like that. I really want to orange pill people and get them to a really deep understanding. I feel like I'm at a level now where I get people to question it and they're at the beginning stages of starting to understand. I haven't seen anyone really get to have that full on epiphany yet, but
Yeah.
it's just planting seeds. It'll
Yeah.
sprout at some point.
And it takes time. You know how
Yeah.
much time we've put into the
Yeah.
rabbit
Yeah.
hole and learning and stuff. So they'll get there. But yeah, planting the seeds is what really matters. It kind of fosters in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I also wanted to talk to you about is like this idea of straddling the fiat world and the Bitcoin world. One of the people that I really like in terms of their perspective is Matt Manning. He talks about this idea of the liminal space, how the world is in a liminal space right now where old structures are falling and the new structures haven't really formed yet. And so most of us are living in this liminal space, this in between. And you work at Fidelity still, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so you're like a perfect person who's straddling both worlds. So how does that feel for you, being fully in the traditional financial system, but seeing the light and understanding that that's the past and we're going to be moving away from that?
Yeah. No, it's tough. And I'm glad you brought this up. It's tough too. So yeah, I do work in Fidelity. Fidelity's a wonderful company, but I'm not working in like the Bitcoin or digital asset ecosystem at Fidelity, which I want to get to. So it is tough, like understanding what we understand, but having to like still work in TradFi and still in the work I do, I see people talk about traditional stocks, like not traditional investments, stocks, bonds, and it's just like they don't even get it. And even they don't even get the whole gold aspect, right? Like for what I do, I help people. We do a podcast and I receive questions from some of our viewers and they don't get it at all. Like they don't understand currency versus money. They don't understand why gold is money. They definitely don't understand Bitcoin. So it's just like, man, there's so much more work to do and you want to, again, just help people. So it is a fine line of you're living in the TradFi world, but you want to get out of that and work in Bitcoin. So that's my next step. Ideally, I can just find a role in Bitcoin at Fidelity and do that, or just pivot and do something else and fully work full time in Bitcoin. But yeah, it's a fine line you want to live completely in Bitcoin, but you got to still live in the TradFi world and do what you got to do. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure it out myself, honestly.
Yeah, I was feeling a lot of very conflicted about this myself, being in the traditional healthcare. And I've come to peace with it by realizing that we are in this liminal space and there's just, we have to straddle both worlds for now.
Yeah.
And what we can do is take our entire paycheck, immediately convert it into Bitcoin, port it into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's powerful right there. That is a lot right there.
That is what I do. Yeah. I didn't mention that. Yeah. So I do live on a complete Bitcoin standard. I don't get paid in Bitcoin yet. I probably will do that soon, but I basically still get paid in fiat and just convert everything over to Bitcoin. And try to just, again, put all my time and energy into the Bitcoin system and then just straddle into the TradFi world. But yeah, I live on a Bitcoin standard. I try to keep as little fiat as possible and just get out of that system. I do not want my time or energy intertwined with that system. I want to just focus on Bitcoin, build in Bitcoin, and just see the future we want to see. Yeah, completely agreed.
Yeah, and I love how you work at Fidelity and you have an inside look at that. And I'm really curious about their like crypto side and their digital asset side, because they seem to be they seem to get it. Like they'll put out these papers that show that they get it. They had some
Yeah.
crazy prediction for Bitcoin's price, and when you read that thing they put out, it's like they get it, and
Oh, yeah, they get it.
I was very impressed. So do
Yeah,
you know people that are in that digital assets part?
I do.
And
Yeah, I know.
they're Bitcoiners or?
I know one in like actually in person. He's a Bitcoiner for sure, and I just know like I know of other people who are in the space. But yeah, like Fidelity's been like they were like super early to Bitcoin. Abby Johnson, who's the CEO, she came around it. I think in 2013 or 2014. They were mining Bitcoin for a while. Like they get it. They came out with a report a few days ago talking about a super cycle. Another person
Yeah,
in Fidelity said, I think Bitcoin was going to go to $1 billion per coin.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, they get it. It's just, and then they just recently offered spot Bitcoin. So they had the ETF along with
Yeah.
BlackRock, but now they're offering you can buy actual spot Bitcoin and sell it or and send it to self custody, which is huge.
Wow.
So yeah, like they're building products. They have a really good learn page where you can learn about Bitcoin. And they, like you said, they do really good reports and papers as well. Yeah, they're building the ecosystem. It's just again about getting people to understand it and yeah, not buy the ETF, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Yeah, but yeah, no, they really do get it, and they're leaders in the space for sure.
So if you buy spot Bitcoin through them, it probably doesn't make sense for us to do that now because the fees are probably very high.
I haven't looked into it. I would
Yeah.
probably assume they're a little higher than say Strike, but
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't looked into it though.
Yeah. Man, I'm excited for you. That's an opportunity for you because you'd be perfect to be in that
Yeah,
division.
yeah.
I would love to have you in that role at Fidelity.
I'm working toward it.
Yeah.
Absolutely working toward it. Yeah, as Bitcoin becomes more mainstream and more people are adopting it and wanting to know more about it, I'm pretty sure more opportunities and roles are going to open up. Hopefully, I'll be there and ready to fill it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm curious your thoughts on this in terms of we see how the future is going to unfold. It's going to be a Bitcoin future. We're going to be in a
Mhm.
hyper-Bitcoinized world.
Yeah.
But the question is, how long is that going to take? And it could potentially take a really long time. And if that's the case, we're going to need these fiat structures. And what Fidelity has seems like a great place to straddle or to keep interfacing with and to use as a resource before we have this fully hyper Bitcoinized world. And I guess it's impossible to say how long it's going to take, but what are your thoughts on how long is this fiat system going to get dragged out for?
It's tough to say because I've heard two different perspectives where,
Yeah.
you know, the dollar or the fiat system could go away in the next 10 years and we're on a full hyper Bitcoinized world. And I've heard
Mhm.
another perspective where the dollar's not going anywhere and
Yeah.
they're going to coexist for a long time. I don't know. I'm somewhere probably in the middle. I don't think the dollar
Yeah.
goes away in the next 5 to 10 years. I just think, again, we just have this gradual erosion of purchasing power in the dollar. People, again, just start to get it. Like things continually get worse and worse, and people start to look for other alternatives. But I don't think the dollar like hyperinflates. I think, I don't know. I think maybe by 2040, 2050, we could possibly be getting very close to a hyper Bitcoinized world. And then I think by 2060, 2070, going into like the 2100, we would probably be in a full hyper Bitcoinized world. But I do think they're going to coexist for the next probably 20, 30 years, unless something like a catastrophe happens. But yeah, I think they're going to probably coexist for the next
Mhm.
2 to 3 decades,
Yeah.
which is probably good, right?
Yeah.
Because we all want a hyper Bitcoinized world, but I don't
Right.
think it would be great either if the dollar collapsed overnight. It would be like all out chaos. And it would be nice to have people gradually transition into Bitcoin rather than Bitcoin shoots up to $10 million because the dollar collapsed overnight. And then now it's just all out World War Z
Yeah.
chaos. I
Yeah.
don't think that's what anybody wants.
Yeah. It's good to be reminded of that because and then also most other Bitcoiners, we just want to go up. We want it to shoot up.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you think about how that would actually play out, it would be like apocalyptic almost. And then
Literally.
I'd be worrying about safety, and then
Yeah.
we'd never get to experience any of the benefits of having a lot of Bitcoin if we're always having to worry about our safety. And
Looking over our
yeah,
shoulder. Yeah. It
yeah,
wouldn't be good for anybody. Yeah. The more time that more people can get on the train, understand it, self custody, the better. And I think that's also too how wealth can redistribute, right? Because I think wealth distribution is still, or I should have said wealth. Yeah, the wealth distribution isn't distributed within
mhm,
Bitcoin. It's still pretty tight. So being able to just get more people on board as Bitcoin continues to go up, I think it's just better for everybody. So that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
Was there anything that you experienced that kind of allowed you to learn the lesson of how important self custody is? Because I had some Bitcoin on an exchange. And
Mhm.
that's how I learned the lesson, because I had it on Voyager, and then Voyager went bust.
Man.
And I was like, it's just not there. I bought it and it's not there. They said it
Yeah.
was insured. What's going on? And then I
Oh,
saw
man.
all the bankruptcy and all the
Mhm.
corruption there. And I was like, this is insane. It is burned into my brain now about how important self-custody is.
Custody is. Yeah. Man, I hate to hear that for you.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, I guess I didn't find Bitcoin till post 2022 with past all the collapses and stuff. So I found it in like late 2023, early 2024. And I knew just from the people who were mentoring me, like self custody from the jump. So luckily I didn't have any FTX kind of situations. And then, yeah, just over time, I understood the profound importance of self custody and like being able to have Bitcoin as a bearer asset and own your own money and why that's so important. It just made sense to me off the rip. And yeah, I'm like a big self custody maxi. And yeah, it just makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, luckily for me, I didn't have any catastrophes or anything like that with FTX, but I got it off the rip, just owning your own money.
Yeah. And as time goes on, I just realized just how revolutionary the idea of self custody is. It's really the only way that we're going to be able to fight the existing system.
Yeah.
Because without self custody, they can just make paper claims and just play all these games, and that can just go on to ad infinitum. There's no end to that. Self custody is the one thing that stops that, and it's the one tool that we have.
It truly is revolutionary. I think that you can you can have a bearer asset in control in your own custody in a 10-minute time frame. It's just revolutionary, and that can happen for everybody in the world, right? You can't do that with gold, can't do that with stocks, can't do that with bonds. Cash in your bank account is not going to work. And then you can take that Bitcoin with you anywhere in the world, storing it in your head. Like, it's so revolutionary, and I don't think majority of the people have fully grasped that yet. So again, we saw it with people in Iran, right? If you were able to self-custody your Bitcoin, have your private keys, and you needed to leave, not only did you not lose everything and the currency collapse, you walked away with everything and can then go to a different country with all your wealth intact. That is mind-boggling, revolutionary, such a powerful tool. So I think more and more people need to understand that, and we'll get it over time. And that is the revolution, Bitcoin and self-custody. That's it.
And I'm curious to hear your thoughts about what's going on with gold and silver right now.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, it's really frustrating because I'm like, you see the problem, but you don't see that Bitcoin's actually 10 times better than that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm excited because it does seem to be a sign that people are waking up.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time before they find that Bitcoin's an even better solution than gold or silver. But how are you thinking about that?
Yeah, it's been just crazy watching gold and silver run over the last year. Historically, in uncertainty, countries, large capital flows, they flow into gold because they just understand it, right? It's a physical metals. It's something I can own. It's mine. People understand gold. So I think that's the story, especially with central banks too. They're buying record tons of gold, trying to de-dollarize and just shoring up for this new monetary regime. And I think eventually, people will come around to Bitcoin, right? And if you want to look at it from a technical standpoint as well, like the charts, gold historically runs first, even prior to this run before this run last year. Gold historically runs first and Bitcoin runs. I'm not worried at all. Seeing as Bitcoiners, seeing what gold and silver are doing should only just make us super excited. That's just a foreshadow of what's coming for Bitcoin. So yeah, it did hurt a little bit last year seeing gold and silver run and then people trolling us. But I fully believe that we'll have a fantastic year this year and going into next year as well. And then, seeing silver run as well. I think too, as I listen to Simon Dixon a lot, and he talks about them like strategically weakening the dollar. I think that's all part of it as well. Gold, and if you price the dollar in gold and silver, they're down like 100%. I think almost both. And then silver being used for this industrial use case for AI and data centers and stuff. Yeah, I think. And then we had the headlines and news of the debasement trade last year. So it definitely is going mainstream. People are starting to understand, like, this gold Bitcoin thing, like, it makes sense. Like, the debate, if you're frightened of the debasement of your currency, you should probably own some gold and own some Bitcoin. So I think we're just still getting started. Capital hasn't even seriously flowed yet into Bitcoin. And again, as knowledge distributes and more people understand, this Bitcoin thing is absolutely finite. With 21 million, I need to get some. And capital is going to rotate out of gold and out of silver and into Bitcoin, and we're going to just see a parabolic move. Yeah, that's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm looking at it too. The parabolic move is going to be crazy.
Oh, it's going to rip faces. I cannot wait.
But how do you explain the fact that the world is starting to wake up and the debasement trade is mainstream, and yet the price went down. That's one thing that I struggle to reconcile a little bit.
Yeah, I just think gold and silver stole the show last year. I think the capital and AI, the capital that would have rotated into Bitcoin, it rotated into gold and it rotated into NVIDIA and all the AI stocks. But again, that capital is going to eventually rotate out of gold and silver because it's just running. And I was listening to another podcast today and they were talking about Bitcoin is probably the most undervalued asset in the world and underpriced asset in the world. And I completely agree. And we're going to see a massive repricing event. And that's when like Samson Mao talks about like the Omega candle. Like we're going to see a just face melting rally upward when all this capital rotates out of stocks, gold and silver, and then just rotate into Bitcoin and bonds too. So yeah, I just think it's going to take time. And again, like we're still I think it's also important for us to remember as Bitcoiners that we're still so incredibly early, right? We are so early. So we just got to be patient and know that it's going to take time. But yeah, we're in the winter. We just need to be patient.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
It's always good to remember why we're in this. We're in this for the long term, and it's the writing's on the wall. It's going to happen. And we're, so just got to give it time.
It's inevitable. Yeah. I always, when other people ask me like, don't you want to diversify? Aren't you a little scared of being all into Bitcoin? I always ask them like, what else should I be in? What else would I diversify into? It makes zero sense buying bonds. Like in my opinion, bonds are like, bond holders are the suckers at the table. So you don't want to buy bonds. Again, stocks, you can't own them. We see the manipulation in the stock market. I don't necessarily want to be there. The only other viable option I would say is gold. And we understand the problems with gold. Bitcoin to me is the only thing that makes sense to be in. Yeah, it's just going to take time. We're in the winning boat. We're just waiting for everybody else to figure out that they need to be on the boat with us too.
Yeah. And going off that, if we know that it is inevitable, then, and I wanted to get your take on this too, as someone who's in the fiat system, can we use this knowledge that Bitcoin's going to be inevitable and kind of leverage it against the fiat system? So we know the dollar is dying, and we know that Bitcoin's just going to keep getting stronger. So if that's the case, then it does make sense to do some financial engineering against the fiat system. And I'm referring to things like taking out loans, borrowing against your Bitcoin, which historically is if you're a true Bitcoiner, you don't do those things. It's stay humble, stack sats. Yep. But if you can get a loan for 10 to 12% or borrow against your Bitcoin, and you know that Bitcoin's CAGR is way higher than that, so all you have to do is beat 10 to 12%, and we know Bitcoin's going to do that. Yeah. So that's leveraging the fiat system against itself. And I've done this a little bit with some stuff. I'm experimenting with it, but I feel a little bit of guilt because of the Bitcoin ethos of stay humble, stack sats. I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I stay humble, stack sats too all the time. But with the knowledge we have, if you knew something was going to 10x, wouldn't you want to accumulate as much as you can right now before 10x's? Yeah. So that's my thought process. So I have also financial engineered as well. I haven't borrowed against my Bitcoin, but I've used 0% APR credit cards. And Sonny Poe, shout out to him on Twitter, he really popularized this. But basically, we're like, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, some of the big banks, you can get they have these 0% APR credit cards. And it's like a promo for 24 months or 18 months. And it's 0% interest for that time duration. You can apply for them, so you get approved, and you get approved for $10,000. They have a balance transfer mechanism where you can take the balance off the card. So the $10,000, you can literally transfer it to your bank account and then buy Bitcoin with it. And then you basically pay like your minimum balance on the card for the 24 months or whatever. And then you can either pay off the loan or just roll it over. So I've done that, and it worked out really well for me. I found that method when Bitcoin was at like 50 and 60K. So I implemented it there. It worked out really well. The idea of someone offering you free money for basically 2 years and you saying you can go buy Bitcoin and it needs to outperform 0%, it's a winning trade. Yeah. It's a winning trade for me. And yeah, again, it just goes back to trying to accumulate as much as you can, but also being financially responsible, right? You wouldn't want to do that and not have a way to pay it back or be way over your eyeballs. And where you saying, if you only had $10,000 in Bitcoin, but you got $40,000 approved in credit cards, like that's probably a problem. Yeah. So it's all about just being financially responsible and making sure you're engineering it properly. But I'm all for it if someone does responsible, and I have done it, and I'm looking at doing it more because it's just, man, Bitcoin under 100K is just such a gift. We know where this is headed. You want to try to get as much as you can now. and just, yeah, stack more.
Yeah, I love that take. Yeah, thank you. And do you keep up with AI much? What are your thoughts on how AI and Bitcoin are going to interconnect, and how is that going to, what's that going to do to the Bitcoin price,
Yeah.
and how we relate to Bitcoin in the future?
Yeah. Actually, one of my goals for this year was to dive really deep into AI a little bit more and just understand the like mechanisms and of it. But I do think Bitcoin is an AI play, which people don't understand that yet either.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
an AI play because if AI is really as disruptive as people claim it is going to be, and it's going to take people's jobs and all this stuff. So if AI is going to take people's jobs, these people have mortgage, student loans, car loans, all types of debt, right? So if they don't have the income to continue to pay off that or pay that stuff, how are they going to pay it? They're going to have to print the money to give people the money so that they can pay the debts, which is
Yeah.
highly inflationary, and Bitcoin does extremely well in that environment. And two, what was I going to say? Oh, so people, I don't want to say this. If people have this debt, say like for a mortgage, whose debt is that? That's the bank's debt, right? They own the house. So if people default on the mortgage, then it goes back to the bank. What is the bank's reserves? What do they have as an asset on their balance sheet? Treasuries are underwater. So they're going to have to bail out the banks as well, because if people can't pay their mortgage, the Fed, as a lender of last resort, is going to have to bail out the banks again, which is highly inflationary. So as Larry Lepard has talked about, the big print, that's probably what's going to be the big print. Like banks start to fail, AI's taking people's jobs, banks start to fail, they're going to have to print a gigantic amount of money to bail out banks and keep the system somewhat afloat. And Bitcoin is going to just do stellar in that environment. So that's how I look at it. Yeah, it's just AI is going to displace jobs, displace kind of everything as we know it. And again, it's going to force governments to print money. Like there is no other alternative other than for them to print money, and a lot of it. And Bitcoin's going to do extremely well in that environment.
Yeah. Have you been watching this battle between Trump and Powell?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's theater to me.
Yeah.
I don't take it too serious. I'm not really a politic guy. I try to stay out of it a little bit. But again, it goes back into our thesis of the big print, where Powell's out in May. Trump's going to get whoever he wants to get in there. He's going to be a yes man. He's going to bring rates down to zero, near 0%. And as Trump and many of his people in his cabinet have said, they are going to run this thing insanely hot. And again, that is a beautiful environment for, quote, risk on assets. And Bitcoin should do extremely well in that situation. Yeah, Trump wants those rates down, and he's going to get those rates down eventually. But yeah, that's why I remain bullish and think we're going to have a really good year. Because, again, and this year's a midterm year as well. So they need to get things moving, to juice the economy. Yeah, they're going to get those rates to near zero and run this joker hot. Yeah, I'm bullish.
So in the way that we see that Bitcoin is inevitable, and we're not like, this isn't our career, we're not like geniuses, we just happen to see what seems obvious once you see it. So if we were able to figure it out, it makes me think that all these other smart people that are running the world, they probably have figured it out as well, and they're just plain dumb. Or do you think that people really haven't figured it out because it's like outside their paradigm?
Are you talking about like everyday people, or are you talking about like academics and scholars, or?
I guess I'm talking about like people in the government, or like the Larry Finks of the world, or like the people that are around the world, like the leaders of the tech companies, like Elon Musk. He must know that Bitcoin is inevitable, and
Yeah, I think Elon maybe gets it. He's hinted at it multiple times in tweets or whatever, so he might get it, but I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. I do think some people get it. I remember in a Larry Lepard interview, he said like a government person reached out to him and was like, your book was phenomenal. We get it. We understand what's going on. And then some people and some institutions have no idea what's going on, because I think none of the Mag 7 companies, I think maybe outside of Tesla, own Bitcoin. Like none of them have it as a treasury reserve asset. And then, yeah, you've had Larry Fink come out in the last few years and say, yeah, Bitcoin is, I was wrong and I now get it. And now he's like trying to roll out these products, but I don't trust Larry Fink or BlackRock anyway. But yeah, I think the knowledge is starting to distribute and people are starting to understand it and get it. And it just goes back to the game theory too, right? There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. You're probably going to want to claim some of that pie before other people do. And that's going to reverberate for individuals, companies, and nation states and governments. So I think that's what's just happening. But I do still think we're super early, because I don't think every everybody gets it yet, or like even everybody in the higher echelons of government get it, but I could definitely be wrong. But yeah, I just think we're still early.
It seems like in the higher echelons of the US government, there's a lot of people that seem to get it. There seems to be a lot of Bitcoiners, which makes me very hopeful, which is crazy. I don't think a lot of people were expecting to see all these people who seem to get Bitcoin in these high positions in the government. But I want to think that they know how this is going to end. They know they can't just go out and say, Bitcoin is awesome, everyone buy Bitcoin. They're playing the long game, and they know that they need to be very strategic about it.
Yeah, I would like to think that as well. I don't know. I'm very skeptical of the government, and I don't like to put too much like hope in it. The whole point of Bitcoin is that like you can completely opt out of that, right?
Yeah.
Bitcoin is self-custody, 21 million. I don't care what the government does. So I do think they get it, maybe, and they're trying to play the long game. But at the same time, I'm skeptical. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm remain out of politics.
Yeah.
I try not to give my time and energy to that. So if they get it, great. If they don't, well, more Bitcoin for us.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Bitcoin too. I love how all these reminders about not getting caught up in politics, because that's the beauty of being a Bitcoiner, is that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So we tend to get caught up in these things as if it does matter and get excited about it. But it's really good to be reminded that you don't even really need to think about this. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah. Politics is a show. I'm on the side of things where politicians don't care about you. Like you can tell the last 20 years, their policy has been completely anti-American of the individual. And that's, again, just the importance of Bitcoin, right? In my opinion, nothing is going to change and get better for the average American. If you're not owning assets, you're not owning Bitcoin, you're not continuing like to upskill yourself, like things are just going to get worse. And politics isn't going to save you. If you think you can vote your way out of this, it's not going to happen. So you, again, just need to like understand where we're at on the playground and just be able to start owning assets. And just that's why it's so important to me. Because if you don't own assets, I'm almost pretty sure, guaranteed, that your life is only going to get worse. And yeah, again, politicians isn't going to come to your door and save you. So you just got to do it yourself and help people. And just the whole local community thing is why it's so important. But yeah, I have very little faith in politics and politicians.
Yeah, no, I love that reminder. So thank you for that. And you mentioned Larry Lepard a few times, and I love his stuff. He's just on a whole nother level in terms of his thinking. And he talks about how, to your point about not putting your trust in government, he talks about how all these politicians who are making these super important decisions, they don't even seem to have any knowledge of monetary history. They don't seem to know that it's possible that the US dollar could die. And not only possible, but all fiat currencies die at some point. It seems like most politicians don't understand that. They just think that the dollar is going to be here forever. They don't factor the possibility of it not being here as even a possibility. And it's a crazy concept that people running our world don't even know about history, just going back a couple generations.
Literally. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like you said, every fiat currency in history has died. Like every single fiat currency has gone to zero. And I don't know why people think that's going to not change, right? That rule applies to the dollar, rule applies to the euro, that rule applies to the yen, and everything else. It's just a matter of time. So again, thinking of Bitcoin as your lifeboat, you need to get on the lifeboat. And because as we just saw in Iran, like it's a very real probable and guaranteed outcome that is going to happen. I just can't tell you when for the major fiat currencies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it just goes back to our flawed economic model anyway of Keynesian economics versus Austrian economics. Yeah, when you just continually inflate the money supply, the dollar or any currency is going to continually lose value, and the inevitable outcome is usually hyperinflation. Yeah, I don't know how more people don't see it and more people don't get it. That's what's going to happen. So the sooner you see it, the better, and the quicker you can plan around that.
Yeah, I saw this podcast maybe about a month ago with Lepard, and he outlined this scenario where politics generally yo-yos back and forth. Potentially a Democrat wins in 2028, and their solution would be to increase spending for things, and that would just, because politics is in a really tough spot right now. There's no winning. So the dollar's on a death spiral. You can blame who's ever currently in, or you can just realize that there's really no good solutions here.
Yeah.
So whatever we do now in this term, people will say it's a Republican thing, and then the Democrats come in to try and save the day, but they're going to do what they do will actually be the opposite of what should be done. and then that will lead to this death spiral of the dollar and lead to hyperinflation.
Yep.
And then Lepard brought up, and then Michael Saylor runs for president in
In
2032
2032, yep,
because
I've
he
heard him
comes
say
in
that.
and says, hey, I understand monetary history. I know what happened. I've got all this Bitcoin. I can put society back on the right track. And I thought that was a pretty incredible scenario that seems actually like it could happen.
It could, yeah. I do think if for sure that if the Republicans lose, or the Democrats come in 2028 and they win, they're going to promise a whole bunch of free stuff. They are going to say they're just going to give out a bunch of stimmy checks. There's just going to be stimulus. And like you said, that probably could be the final death pin in the dollar. We'll see. But I love the idea of, I like the idea of Saylor maybe being president in 2032. I don't know how likely that's to happen, but who knows? But that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. And I know you and I are both huge fans of Chris from Wealth Squad, and I saw you were on the Spaces with him. How did you get plugged in with him, and what was that like being on the Spaces with him?
Oh no, it was great. Chris is like a older big brother to me, and I'm in the Wealth Squad, and he's helped me a lot. And he was actually the guy who orange pilled me. I'm trying to remember how I got into the Spaces with him. I think I just hopped on, and then we've had interactions on X or whatever and talked. So he just brought me up on stage, and we just talked, and we had about a 45-minute conversation, and it was cool. Just hearing, he was interested to hear stuff from my perspective as a 25-year-old, and it's always awesome to hear from his perspective. And hopefully we'll do some more stuff in the future. But I think that's how that transaction happened.
So what happens in the Wealth Squad community these days? Is it all Bitcoin talk now?
So there's different segment or channels in the group. So of course there's the Bitcoin channel. People talk about Bitcoin and all that good stuff, but people still in there trading options and stuff. What else? Stock trading, business stuff. So like entrepreneurship kind of things. People are working on Shopify stuff, clothing brands, a whole bunch of different things. What else? I think that's kind of it. There's probably some more stuff. To be honest, I haven't been too active in the chat as of late. I've just been locked in on some of the stuff I'm doing. But I do go in there from time to time and just see what's going on in the Bitcoin chat, what people are talking about. Chris always goes in there every so often and gives updates on his buys, what he's looking at, and things like that. But just an overall community for people who are investing, building businesses, and of course, Bitcoiners. So it's a cool community to be in.
Yeah, his message is so powerful about how he accumulated houses and watches and cars, but when he discovered Bitcoin, he just started slowly selling all that stuff for Bitcoin. That's such a powerful message right there.
It is. And I think that's a lot of Bitcoiners' journeys. We might not be doing it at the scale he's doing it, but once you do understand Bitcoin, you're like, man, you start looking around. What do I not need? I've sold stuff as well. And and that's the Bitcoin life. It's just a simple life. And once you understand the profoundness of Bitcoin, a lot of the material things, at least for me, have withered away. Like I remember before Bitcoin, I was super big into sports cars. Like one of my dream goals was to get a Lamborghini Urus, get a Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, and some other sports cars. And I still love and admire sports cars. But now that I understand Bitcoin, it's just not that important to me anymore. Would it be cool if I had one? Sure. But like before Bitcoin, it was like, I got to have this car. Like I got to figure out a way to run up a couple $1 million and be able to get this car. Now that I understand Bitcoin, it's just like, I really don't care. If it were to happen, cool. But if not, I'm not losing any sleep over it at all. And I think that's just such a better and peaceful life, right? I live at this stage in my life, a very simple life. And I think that's the Bitcoin story, right? You don't need you don't need a lot of material things to make you feel happy. You need your basic necessities met, be able to travel, ideally, eventually have family, kids, and just be able to live life on your own terms. But the material stuff can come or go, whatever, but it's not so important as it used to be on like a fiat standard. And I love that kind of dichotomy. And I can look back and man, like, that stuff's just not important to me anymore. Or going to the mall and shopping and buying sneakers I don't need. It's just such a great life. And seeing Chris lead the way on that, it's inspiring. And I think a lot of other Bitcoiners are following that as well.
Yeah, it's so freeing to be freed of that compulsion for material things.
Yeah.
And I love the way you describe it. It just changes your whole world when you don't have that dependency on material things.
I say it rewires your mind almost, right? Because now everything I want to buy or look at, I think of an opportunity cost. It's okay. Say if I wanted to buy $200 pair of sneakers. If I were to buy this $200 pair of sneakers now, do I really want this shoe? Because in a few years, that's going to be a $2,000 shoe when Bitcoin 10X is it really that much of it? Do I really want this shoe that bad? And it's usually no. that applies for a lot of other things as well. People get into the buying cars or whatever. Like, again, it's just like, do I really need this? And usually the answer is no. And it's like, yeah, I'll just buy some more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Buy more Bitcoin instead.
Yeah, I had Knut Van Holm on my show, and
Yep.
he talked about that same principle, how if you don't want the Lambo, then you actually own all of the Lambos. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a good, I like that.
Yeah.
I also look at it as well as that, as we know, Bitcoin is deflationary money. So there's a graphic I can picture right now. I can send it to you. Lamborghinis, of course, and everything is only getting cheaper price than Bitcoin. So like in 2018, I think it cost 77 Bitcoin for this Lamborghini Aventador SVJ, the car I want. And then in 2020, I think 4, it's now like 7 Bitcoin. So that in 2030, it's probably going to be 2 Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin. And in 2040, it's going to be 0.5 Bitcoin. Then I'll look into maybe, okay, like I might buy it then. But as we know, like everything around us is only going to get cheaper. Same for housing, same for everything else. So yeah, I'll just wait and be patient and just, I'll look at it again and maybe 15 years from now when it costs 0.1 Bitcoin to buy it, then I'll consider it. But until then, I'm just going to stay humble, stack sats.
Yeah, as Bitcoiners, we take that concept for granted about how life just keeps getting cheaper every year.
Yeah.
But hearing you say that just makes me realize just how profound that shifts your worldview.
It's so profound. And that's actually what I try to lead with people, especially going back to the people my age and Gen Z and millennials. And what I want to lead with when I do this, going to colleges and helping people, is that everyone, of course, understands, not actually everyone understands inflation, but everyone understands that prices are going up. So if you can then tell them, listen, if you start saving in a different form of money, everything around you is actually only going to get cheaper. So the house that you're severely priced out of, that over time is going to get cheaper. Your rent's going to get cheaper. The food that's becoming more and more expensive, that isn't better quality, is only going to get cheaper and cheaper. And that is, for me, it was a massive paradigm shift and reframing. And it's, man, everything you were taught was a lie, right? Because you just taught inflation, 2% inflation, like everything only goes up over time. But when you just save in a different form of money that isn't being printed out of thin air, actually everything gets cheaper over time. And that's a more abundant future, and where your time and energy that you've spent in the past is rewarding you in the future. And you can just be able to do more and do the things you want to do in the future, and not just have to continue living this continual rat race. And that's what I want to lead with. And I think my generation and millennials are really receptive to that, because again, we've been bear the brunt of this. We've been of the fiat system. Like we've got the bad deck. So I think our two generations specifically need that reframing, and just being able to price your life in a different money and know that things are only going to get cheaper over time is profound, for sure.
Man, I love the way you break everything down. I'm just, I'm so thankful that I found your stuff online, and I really appreciate everything that you keep putting out there. And thank you for coming on the show today.
Man, I appreciate it. I always enjoy our conversations. We kind of dive deep into multiple different facets. So yeah, I love having these conversations, and maybe we can have a touch point sometime in the mid-year. Because I'm probably will start doing this college stuff here soon, and I'll be posting content on that, so we can recap and see how that's going and some of the changes I hope to make on these kids' lives, and working on some other stuff as well. So we can definitely reconvene in some time.
Yeah, I love to hear how that goes, and you're inspiring me to think of ways that I can do similar things. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, take care. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Signal. In a world drowning in noise, signal is everything. Most people are overwhelmed, distracted, and deceived, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've lost the ability to discern what truly matters. But signal cuts through the noise. And Bitcoin is pure signal. It doesn't promise. It doesn't lie. It doesn't bend to opinion or propaganda. It just is. And as the world descends into even more chaos, distraction, and distortion, your ability to identify signal, to recognize what's real, true, and timeless, will be one of your greatest assets. So stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay tuned, because here on The Signal, we don't follow trends, we follow truth. I'm Dr. Satoshi, and in a world of noise, we are the signal.